Just taking a walk, the man said evenly. His voice was deep, steady. Hot morning for it. Uh-huh. Mark pulled the car closer to the curb and put it in park. He stepped out, adjusting his belt. Mind showing me some ID? The man stopped walking. His brows lifted slightly. I don't think I've done anything that requires me to show ID, officer. Something in his calmness rubbed Mark the wrong way. He was used to people stammering, fumbling for wallets, eager to comply. This man wasn't hostile, but he wasn't deferential either. Sir, Mark said, squaring his shoulders. I asked you a question, and I answered, the man replied, still calm. I'm walking, that's all. Mark felt the heat climb up his neck, hotter than the Tennessee sun. He hated that tone like he was being tested. He stepped closer. Look, we've had some break-ins in this area. Just need to know you're not up to anything. I'm not, the man said. He didn't move, didn't reach for anything. Just stood there, still as a rock. Mark reached for his radio, more out of instinct than necessity. Dispatch this. Is Dwyer got a male subject on Maple, refusing ID? The man's jaw tightened slightly. His voice dropped lower, more firm. Officer, I suggest you think very carefully about how you want to proceed here. That did it. Mark's patience snapped. Hands where I can see them, he barked. The man's lips pressed into a line, but he slowly raised his hands chest level. The gesture wasn't fearful, it was deliberate, almost like he was indulging the officer. Turn around, Mark ordered. Excuse me? Turn around, hands on the car. Mark gestured sharply to his cruiser. His pulse thudded in his ears. A mix of adrenaline and anger. The man didn't move. His eyes locked onto Mark's with a quiet intensity. You're making a mistake. Mark stepped forward, grabbing the man's arm to spin him toward the car. The grip was firm, but the arm felt solid, muscular, like trying to move a wall. The man didn't resist, not really, but his body stiffened as if in warning. Just then, a voice cut through the air from a porch across the street. Mark, hey, what are you doing? It was Mrs. Carmichael, an elderly white woman with her little dog tucked under her arm. She shuffled to the edge of her porch, her face scrunched in confusion. This man bothering you? She asked the stranger. The man gave her a polite nod. Not at all, ma'am. Just trying to enjoy a morning walk. Mark tightened his grip. His pride stung by the eyes now watching. He shoved the man against the cruiser, the thud echoing down the quiet street. I said hands on the car. The man braced his palms against the hood, his head bowing slightly as if in prayer, but his voice was steel. You don't know who I am, do you? Mark leaned in close, his breath hot. Don't care who you are. A silence stretched between them, sharp and electric. Then, with perfect calm, the man said, My name is David Langston, and in less than a week I'll be sworn in as the new chief of police. The words hit Mark like a sucker punch. His hands froze on the man's wrists. For a second, the street seemed to tilt under his feet. That's right, Langston said, lifting his head just enough for his eyes to meet Mark's. You just laid hands on your incoming boss. Mark's mouth went dry. His grip loosened, without meaning to, and he stumbled back a step. That's not true, Langston finished for him. Check with your captain. He knows who I am. Mrs. Carmichael's dog yipped loudly, the only sound breaking the stunned silence. Mark's radio crackled on his shoulder. Dwyer, status check. He fumbled for the button, his voice hoarse. A situation resolved. Subject's clear. He clicked it off before dispatch could ask more. Langston lowered his hands from the hood, brushing invisible dust from his shirt. He turned to face Mark fully now, his presence towering and unshakable. You've got a choice, Officer Dwyer, he said quietly. You can keep walking this road you're on, treating people like suspects before you know their names. Or you can stop and think about what this badge is supposed to mean. Mark swallowed hard, his face burning. Words tangled in his throat, but none came out. Langston didn't wait for an answer. He stepped back, adjusted his cuffs, and started walking down the sidewalk again, calm, steady, as if nothing had happened. Mark stood frozen beside his cruiser, sweat trickling down his spine. Mrs. Carmichael shook her head from across the street and went back inside. The block was quiet again, but inside Mark's chest, his heart was still thundering. He sat back in his cruiser, gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles whitened. Chief of police? No, that couldn't be real, could it? But something in Langston's steady gaze told him it was no bluff. And if it was true, Mark had just made the worst mistake of his career. The next few days were a blur. Mark avoided the breakroom chatter, avoided his captain's eyes, even avoided some of the guys he usually joked with. Rumors spread quick in a department. And sure enough, by Tuesday morning, the memo was posted. The Clarksville Police Department is proud to welcome Chief David Langston, effective Monday, August 15th. Mark's stomach dropped when he read it. It was real. Every word Langston had said on that hot sidewalk was real. That night, Mark sat at his kitchen table with a beer in hand, staring at the paperwork for overtime shifts he didn't want but needed. His wife, Emily, came in from the living room, folding laundry. "You look like hell," she said flatly. "Thanks," he muttered. She set a basket on the counter and gave him a long look. "Something happened at work?" Mark shook his head too quickly. "No, just department stuff." Emily didn't press, but the doubt in her eyes was clear. She'd grown tired of his walls. They'd been married 15 years, but lately they lived like strangers in the same house. Later, as he lay awake in bed, Mark replayed the scene on Maple Avenue over and over. The calmness in Langston's voice. The way he'd said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And now, in just days, that man would be standing at the front of the department, giving orders Mark would have to follow. His career flashed before his eyes, every late night, every overtime hour, every call he'd answered, and now one bad decision might hang over all of it. When Monday came, the department assembled in the briefing room. The walls buzzed with nervous energy. Some of the older officers stood with arms crossed, skeptical. The younger ones leaned forward, curious. The double doors opened, and in walked David Langston, dressed sharp in his new uniform. His posture was straight, his presence commanding but calm. The room fell silent. Mark shifted uneasily in the back, hoping to blend into the crowd. But when Langston's gaze swept the room, it lingered on him for the briefest moment, a flicker of recognition, sharp as a knife. Mark's throat tightened, his palms grew slick. He prayed silently, "Please God, don't let him call me out." "Not here, not now." Langston stepped to the podium. His voice carried with quiet strength. "Some of you know me. Some don't. My name is David Langston, and I'm honored to serve as your new chief of police. I came here because I believe in what this department can be. But make no mistake, we have work to do." The room was silent, every word hanging heavy in the air. Mark's heart pounded, each syllable like a drumbeat in his chest, because he knew, deep down, that the real work for him was only just beginning.